So the ultimate price trap 3 years ago was when the New Zealand dollar, this is New Zealand against the US dollar, and went all the way up to this tippy top here, and within about a 50 pip or 100 pip window up here, we just barely broke out, and then we slammed down into the bottom. And that has to be one of the, I just couldn't believe it. I really did think that at that point you were going to just go right through the roof on that and just keep going in some blistering, like, oh my God, get to 90 cents and then on and on. But this does not happen. In fact, I don't think it went higher. It just didn't even get there. But that's the monthly. At that point in time, had you drawn your trend lines, when people say, people make comments and they said, good luck with those trend lines, I'm like, yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's got to be the easiest way to trade in the world. So this is the monthly, and you can just connect the peaks and valleys with a line, or you can print it out in black and white chart and just connect the dots. So yes, everybody buying this trend line here. And when does that become kind of a pivot point? Is that double bottom becomes a top. The market is really supposed to break down at that point. That's the speculation it's going to do. When Forex does this price pause, and then bam, or any market, but this rescue, they rescue the price, and horizontally they rescue this New Zealand against the, going way back to this double top here in the monthly, and this whole big, this is supposed to hold into the future, this price thing, but it becomes the pivot point on monthly close. It just keeps on creating this congestion there, and when it doesn't hold this top, they actually violate it, and then it doesn't hold, and we don't keep going up the wonderful bullish. And to this point, everybody must be bullish. You finally got the breakout, the pullback. Here's where totally you had to wait for the pullback all the way into this. This is where I have a problem waiting. This is a quadruple top here, and that's where it ricochets off of. There's enough support on a quad month close to give you this bounce. Plus, you just close this whole vapor lock, this whole this void, and once they clip these wicks, and even it crushes through this price. I mean, if you had your stop here, hell, but people are going to be buying that. So people that are buying this low right here, where, oh my God, are you kidding me? They're going to take out this low? You had to take some heat there. That's 50 pips. You had to take a tremendous amount, but where is the actual fulcrum of that move? There's a doji right here. So you take that forward, that closing price pivot, which matches this one. You got, here's the monthly trap on New Zealand. You're underwater. They're trapped into this, and they've got them. Take it up, pause. That's a classic. Pause at the borderline. Sellers are supposed to come in, they don't. They're going to definitely come in here, right? So the people have to balance their accounts. When it finally comes back, I mean, if they sold here, and then they're, oh my God, when it ricochets back to that 50%, when they're even, Steven, then they get out. So right now, I put buy limits right here, right? Buy limits here, buy limits here, buy limits here, buy limits here. Nothing you can do about that trade. It's obviously a buying opportunity if you think you're walking up this little mini channel right now, or you're just going to keep adding on the sell side on a different time frame. But as soon as you go to the daily, you can go from the monthly to the daily and see the whole setup happening for even a scalp. I can even see scalps on this. Go right to the daily, and you have to zoom out to get the same context of where you're at. But this is a classic double top internal here. You cue that up to this doji here. This is a 50 pip body. The fact that it went up and down and a baby move, that's the body. So here's the window. And this is supposed to hold after the breakout pullback, and it kind of violated in this thing. Crushed all the way back in here. So it totally didn't hold. But you would start buying if it went down here. But on the daily, I cannot see it getting down there. So I'd say put a basket of orders and just pepper this whole range in here next week. Buy limits. Just like you put sell limits on the dollar or yen, you put buy limits on this puppy. If you want to make all sorts of arguments for the estimated time of arrival to this thing selling off and trapping, possibly at the moment, a 50 pip trap on the daily for the bears. They're trapped below here, possibly. This is a triple bottom on the daily going back dead on. It's a quadruple bottom off of this double top. So if you take into account these prices also, totally caught behind under that. Now you take the momentum projections and just you're finding the most amount of touches you can get on a trend line. For the rollover, you're going to come across here. Double top becomes a bottom, ricochets off. Now you have to build a 50 pip envelope for the channels. Now that you've put 50 pip envelopes on these orders, and they just happen to be nearly the 50 pip handles, but just so that you realize those yellow ones are the buy limits, and then you could even have a buy stop here. Now if this is a 1 minute chart, I would so totally put a buy stop there and a buy stop right now, because when this thing comes ripping back and this bottom fails as being a bottom, we're just going to go the other way. We're never going to come down and retest. We wouldn't do that. Like if you put in other words, you're down in new lows, you violated here. When the market's at this wick right here, we're touching this. Instead of buying down here, if you didn't have your buy limits in the wick zone, so the whole wick zone is the market maker or the exchange window. Like when you go to the bank, that's a market maker. The spread at the bank is like 500 pips on a currency. It's 5 cents out of your pocket at the bank. So you can imagine that some of these markets are looking their idea of a move. But here, this is obviously, hopefully you bought a little bit just now, and then you just put buy limits all the way to here. Estimated time of arrival. Got to put an ETA in this stuff with the diagonal lines. So this is a pretty simple currency pair to trade with a 50 order, right? You could just see the landing area. We should come into this space, but it just happens to be you're going to buy every 50 pips all the way to Memphis, all the way down. Now I wouldn't say bet the ranch, but another internal top, another support way out in space. But how much of this void are we going to fill up? If your order started here below this triple bottom wicks, you're already getting a great price. Plus you have this doji here, 50 pip doji. Prime area, I'd say buy one 10 pips deep. Put a buy limit in 20 pips deep on the open. See if they fill you. Then just pepper this puppy all the way to Memphis. Seriously. In fact, forget what I said. Take out a loan and just load it into, when you get down here, you're buying like 3 standard lots. Spread 1 pip apart. master stop down. Anywhere. How about a soft master stop? So you're going to buy all the way down, and people are going to be laughing at you. I can't believe you're buying that thing. Yeah, I know. Me neither. Just like this, shear your brain off, sell off. Look at this. Isn't this this is the Daily New Zealand? We're buying this thing next week. At least for a bounce of 50 pips back to where the floor fell out. The quadruple floor. This is an obvious scalp blast. It's a hybrid trade. It's a mini swing scalp. But that's the beauty of that scalp. Here on the daily, how do you know that's going to be a place to put an order? Well, you built this trading envelope, a 50 pip envelope that's vertical. You're getting the double bottom becomes a top just for a couple days. Don't get too excited, you know. Love trend lines. How could you not love a trend line? It's forcing you. Only one decision you can make here. It's forcing you. Here's a rejected breakout. Breakout pullback. It's supposed to tank now. Bash. Now it's finding support there. And just horizontally, as soon as you zoom in, you see the bottom. And I'm call, you know, some people call these, I don't want to call these trend lines, but I saw a guy treating as a trend line. He goes, well, there's support up there. Support resistance. Here's your last top became a bottom. Perfect setup for a absolute Ford drive. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts to run out of gas at the 50-yard line off of this internal bottom. So right here, this is the big pivot. It's also a, I like to call them power blocks. I decided I'm going to have my power block. And that there is serving as the monster pivot. We fall through. When we get back there, people are like, oh my God, get me out of that long position. Because they were buying the subtrend. And then when they take it back to that doji, come back to here, bam, bam, and now, almost unexpectedly, you know, I think people would almost say, oh, we're going to walk down here like this. Bam. Just rip out every order. This void is immediately filled without any. This is a vicious, but these are easier trades when it's vicious down like this. Yeah, you're just going to put buy limits in here. Scalper roomy to here. This is, come on. It's child's play for this part of the trade. The hard part for me is this bullshit going up. This long, draggy ass, okay, well, you know, we've been on our third date, like, can we, hello? Okay, so then, it turns out you get raped by a bunch of bikers in the alley. But especially if you're long, you're like, damn, that was such a good, the monthlies were turning up, everything was... But now it's a buyer's opportunity on this completely insane sell-off. So I'm a buyer. Next week I'm buying that puppy. And then maybe I get some discount on my milk or something. It's New Zealand. 4-hour chart. People are already long. And there's the double bottom on the 4-hour. We're under. Sellers are loving it for the moment. But then you can see and zoom out from the 4-hour. There's the big fat doji. There's the core. There's your trade block there. Super block. Actually, it's a Chevy with an old block or big block. Big block car. That's where I drive and see. I go trade and put big block orders in there. So it's a come and get me strategy. And along the trajectory of this, there's a quadruple bottom here now. That was just a single bottom maybe on the daily. It's a double bottom on the daily. So you're coming into the geometric zone. There's definitely an angle to this thing. This is just hyperbolic. This is the expected landing zone, and then it's going to get all chatty, I'm sure. And if it does the classic, you have to kind of picture a possibility of come up here, sellers are supposed to come in, they do, we come down here, and it just goes into this sideways, and people are like, I think we got a problem, and then it goes rocketing up, or it just keeps crushing down. So here was the trap underneath this low. There was that was the same version of that where trap below, sellers come in, sure they do. And they're trend continuation, people, from this daily trend. That's the last gasp of the bears. And they bring it right into home plate on this triple bottom. But I'd love to see a bounce here, scalp in here, then try to go, then if you can go to the smaller time frame of, say, the hourly zoomed out a little bit, and you can see the each day here, you can't really be in this tight, but here you can see it's a total buy in the 1 hour. It is the forming of that trap pattern where you get a double bottom at unfair values outside of this cycle low, where all the bears are like, they're having so much fun making money because they're up 100 pips on that. And the kickoff for that, because a trendline break, the nice thing about trendline and close break, and I'll say this to the anti-trendliners, is that if I draw a trend line on that triple bottom, if I put a sell stop on this fractal, the market's up here. At the end of an hour, the market's way up here. If I didn't have the foresight to place sell limits, here's a perfect entry. Bottom becomes a top, we close up into that, they sell hard. Where's the next chance to do that same technique is this bottom becomes a double top. It comes back to this. This is obviously a doji on the 4 hour. And this wick zone is where you want to get in. For the scalp part, scalp it to here because you don't know. I mean, they could just keep rocketing up. Take something off the table, but have a huge expanse. If you're planning for a 100 pip profit on this thing, you'd have to plan ahead on that. So if you miss this rally here, and even if you missed all this, the highest risk trade I can think of here is to put a classic sell stop here. Then you got to put protection up, say here or something, and start trailing that. The problem there is if you run a super tight stop, you're out of that trade. Now you may be waiting for this fractal. The problem is you've only made this much money and you've risked this much. And this could just come right back to here. Take you out with this little profit for all that work because you may not have, you've been afraid to put orders in the unknown price. It's never a good idea to pass up a potential forming opportunity like that. Never a good idea. I know it would be scary to say, oh, you're just going to buy just way down there. But if you spread all these orders across a big spectrum, it's going to be really a piece of cake. Because, yeah, you're going to take some heat. There's no doubt that you're going to suffer a drawdown to get into a spectrum, a bank of orders. But it's an incremental torture. They're going to come in, first you're down $1, then you're down $3, then you're down maybe 40 grand, right? And then all of a sudden it rebounds, you're up $3 million. By trade like that, it's so much money, back and forth. So maybe you're not up for that. 1 hour chart. So price projections off the 1 hour chart look like this. I'd say we're failing to meet projections, so there's obviously divergence away from the projection here, and then where's the top trend line to break is, well, I could copy this over and just build a channel. So there you go. So we're looking to break this trend line. So if this is your reference for the outside, and then you can put in the envelopes like this, and you're looking for this top becomes a bottom here in the envelope, and it's just a nice, this is the midway point of this channel envelope. Give it 4 up there. Now, if it goes up on Sunday night, and it can go up and zigzag enough, you could draw your first trend line for up channel, and now you're building a scenario where it's going to walk up this channel, and it may be some creeper gear walk, and anybody that's long is going to bail at the floor that was taken out, which is here. And it could keep tanking down here. So maybe you have a sell stop here and a sell stop below the low, and you're like, I'm just going to go with it. It's not the best risk to reward ratios, but I am going to just go with the trend. It's going to keep tanking. Have to deal with it. Go to the half hour, you're like, oh, no, not out so fast. Half hour looks like a lot of money can be made on the half hour. Here you get a nice, beautiful double top, failure swing, closes a little bit higher. You know there's divergence on that. You don't even have to look at RSI to know what the. You've seen enough double tops that when it swings up here and closes down, the next hour it closes down, it's a confirmed double top. That's your confirmation to sell right now, or have sell stops just because you're making slightly. And the ATR is small here. So putting it all together, the ATR traders are in here, the swing traders are in here, the double top traders are in on that one. Plus everybody just made so much damn money on a kind of a historical spike down. Oh, and when the dollar is strong against all these currencies, you can see the tipping of the, everything's at the border. I don't know if you ever looked at multiple currencies, but everything's on the edge on that day, on that week, and you're like, oh boy. And you can see the whole thing just come crushing, just tumbling down. Gold's falling through the floor. Gee, what a surprise. Everything's at the brink, the edge of the bid zone. But somebody breaks first and they run, and it's just, it's crazy. But I can't trade 40 currencies, but you can see it happening. I only have to trade one instrument. I only have to be good at one instrument to be in the band. I could play other instruments, other stuff, but you know, there are people that can sing and play. It's amazing, sing and play. And then some of us are only able to just do a certain task. It's fine. But I do love geometry. It's my favorite subject. I can't say I'm doing Gartley's, but it's more like cloud trading if you had to, because I'm projecting out into space. What's the next thing here? So you're always looking to the possibility it's going to come back to where it got taken out, or it's going to keep tumbling down. And when do you think it's going to get there? And on the half hour, you would have a snugger projection. You'd come in like this. This is where it gets all dicey and messy. You can't have too many of these, because the 1 hour is a lot cleaner, and there's less decisions. And there's more, seriously, a bottom becomes a top on the 1 hour. So between the half hour and the 1 hour, this is pretty low. It's 15-minute. Wow. You better have your finger on the trigger, because those setups are just ridiculous. These kind of top-bottom setups. On the 1 hour chart, you can get away with a stupid entry like this. Here's a top becomes a double bottom. But it's hard to pull that off on the 15-minute. Look at the 4 hour. So if you take the And that's a pretty steep sell-off in the 4-hour. So it's been quite a ride for the 4-hour traders there. That was supposed to hold. Here's where you go right through the floor here and just shear it off. And they just start hitting all these bullish guys. Don't forget, this was supposed to go to the moon. I mean, if they said it in Empowered Trading, if you fade them on that, when they said, oh, this is a video like how many months ago, and he goes, oh yeah, he's like, look at this monthly chart. And I mean, yeah, who didn't see this, right? But where did the monthly crap out at on the New Zealand dollar? Everybody had to be thinking, oh my God, that's got to be a... Look at that monthly. It's a scalp on the monthly. Even a scalp on the monthly. So I can't wait to see how far they push this down. And to stand in front of that, I gladly stand in front of this freight train of bearishness for the bounce. The daily looks just ripe for the pickings. So that looks like a real... There's going to be a real... you're right in that contest level. It's coming into the arena. Are we going to melt down, or are we just going to kind of just flirt with this area and then continue back into... And your first momentum target on the exit's going to be, if you're going to really hold through this whole thing, I wouldn't get out on the first bounce to here. And maybe the greedy target is to get out if it comes back into this bottom. Right in here, so first target's here, maybe the second target, let it spring back to this wick, and to here you had 3 exits on that. But personally, I would love to load the wagon for a 50 pip range, have it crush in. I'm already up on the trade. Something's already cashed out, and they can re-dip that, and I don't have to add orders. Another thing is if you put in a deep enough order bank, the beauty of it is that, look, this revisiting here, revisit the exact same range, but imagine this is an hourly chart or a 5-minute chart, and they dip in here and fill you, then they crush back, and you still have pending orders that you haven't canceled, and they come down and go deeper. Those limits would fill, and it springs out. It's just hilarious how frantic. And up here are the sell limits. I mean, you're selling here for this rip back? Wow, that was... Definitely got to sell more. Putting a sell limit grid up there has to be. Just notice that the double top rip back right off of this. Double top, come right into that. Smash it back again. And if you're buying there, so you trade bidirectional trading on an angle. It wouldn't matter if this was in an up. So you're actually range trading. When it goes in, you're really a range trader, even though you could say, oh, it's going down. I'm only taking sells, but look at these traps. And so the triangle, or this sideways nonsense, where people are like, God, I should have got out. Man, I should have got... Look, people are buying, people are selling, people are... Look at that insanity. New Zealand dollar, crushed down. They're crushing this thing, making grapes out of, making wine out of these grapes. So just the really low frequency trader is going to just have this and maybe this line for reference. Be like, okay, we're in the envelope. We're going to look for these kind of scalps for the next couple days, or it's going to be, we could probably go lower. Got to have at least one order here. Just below there, and then all the way down off of that. So we're going to try to load up this demo and run it. It's a lot of drama putting that damn EA in there, but I don't know. Somebody wanted to enter a competition with me, but you could just, I mean, I guess I could just call out the trades in advance. To actually execute it, I could tell you right now, I would not trade one ticket. So I just put a bunch of orders in there, just like I said. I know it sounds stupid to the exacting pencil behind your ear person, and certainly for the math, you are going to have to put a pencil behind your ear. Here's a nice target for entry 2 here. Look at the confluence. We got a double top, becomes another top. This is where it breaks out of this hidden triangle. I call this a hidden bat wing. But I'm not basing it on the wicks. This is all time-based internal structure trading, completely different. Do not confuse this with how dare you think I'm Batwing trading this puppy. This is way more sophisticated than that. I mean, I'm kind of like, I know when I go to restaurants, people know that they know that I know that I'm there. They won't even let me into my safe deposit box anymore. But look how they dipped in here. What a scalp. Buy them, it's right at that edge. Buyer's a scalper's dream right now. Coming right into this, I call this the evil vortex entry. Right here is these convergence of the transverse index. Here's a nice confluence. We got a baby bottom meets a baby bottom. That may be a good target for the comeback to the inverted phase aligned trapezoid parallelogram. Here is the double bottom becomes the double bottom to top roller. Apex of the triangle. Pretty obvious. Dollars and raised interest rates, did you? No, of course we printed money too while we're at it. Does that count? Inflation. Here comes the inflation. Okay, well, brace yourselves for the inflation if you live in the U.S. You have to. They're already raising prices in anticipation, so the market's front-running itself. The evil tax, the hidden tax of life, inflation. Let's. You know what? We don't have any real food. Let's just make synthetic food. Oh, you know, let's just make synthetic money. But there is the thing about the dollar is it's the full faith and credit of the American dollar. So the dollar is a religion, apparently. So that's its own religion. And so far, people are not lighting cigars. The bankers are not lighting cigars with dollar bills yet. So kind of terrible for the doomsdayers. The collapse of this and that. The range trading shows you that markets don't collapse, they just range you to death. And the trend on this currency would be sideways. Is it sideways, or is this this could be a big circle top here. This could be just a monster top. We could be done for. I had a trading book that's called 1000 Chart Patterns, and I literally have, there's names for it like, well, this is the Dome of the Rock, you know. This is what sacrifice people. Oh no, this is the, you know, the mound. Gosh, you know. So it's going to be something else to watch that puppy possibly plunge into that. Get another one of these mini Brexits. The mini Brexit. It's gluten-free.